So for class today, I want you to have a small assortment of TheraBands. So I have a couple of loop bands of different lengths, with different resistances. And then I also have a long TheraBand. Start with just testing the quality of resistance and see what our body is happy with today. So it goes through a range of very stiff, which more resistance provides greater feedback, right? It lets your body know where it is in space. It gives you something to work against and push against. So you'll probably wind up feeling more fierce and more powerful if you make yourself work harder by if you just grab your TheraBand very close together and pull it. And for me, that's not even enough. So I'll just double them up and see, where do I feel my back? Ludacris says you can do it. Put your back into it. Find that moment and see how your body feels with that. You just play around with it, some different positions. Now, if your hands aren't happy with squeezing things like this, which will work your grip strength, especially if you have a loop band, you have the option of bringing your hands through and then grabbing around like this. And that can provide some traction, right? You could even stretch your hands against the band. So there's a lot you can do to modify the subtleties when of the experience when you're working with resistance bands. Now, for this particular warm up, we're going to be starting with a single hand holding on the band and it's anchored over the other foot. So I thought that we could use the longer TheraBand to do a little Goldilocksing in this position too, finding our ideal length. So here's what I want you to do to start. Let's put the band underneath both feet and choke up on it like a lot. Hold very close to your ankle. And then see if you stand up, like how do you like that resistance? And if that's high enough resistance for you, you can double up on the band and then stand on it, right? So you get twice the resistance. And now it's like you can do it, put your abs into it. And then if you hold further up on the band, you give yourself more length. Now go up and down and you'll find that there's less resistance, there's more fluidity, right? You can go further. So maybe you're able to make more shapes. And maybe that's where you want to be working with your body. Just take yourself side to side. There's more of a drippy, bouncy quality. If you overshoot, if you go a little more, a little further, you'll find that it feels awkward, a little floppy. So play with the length. And I'd also like you to notice that the more resistance you give yourself, the slower your movement's going to be. And the less resistance you give yourself, the faster it can be. That's a natural relationship between resistance and speed. So with all of this, your timing, your breath, your follow through is going to be based on the quality of resistance you choose. Let's take the bands away for a second and just stand. It's very early on in this. But check in with your body and see if you feel any difference in your energy level, the level of work. Because the other concept I want to introduce here is the way in which you work out is going to define your afterglow. So if you work out heavier, you're going to wind up probably feeling more grounded and stronger. If you work out lighter, you might feel more playful, more stretchy, more expanded. And I don't know because I don't live in your body, but this is something for you to know. So if you check in with your own systems right now and you imagine how you'd like to feel after this workout. I want you to let that dictate the resistance you choose and the way that you approach all the next movements we're going to do. So we will start with both feet on the TheraBand, just resuming our little Goldilocks exercise from before. I'm going to choose to keep my TheraBand doubled over, and then I'm going to stand on it with both feet hip distance apart. And one more time, put my back into it to come up. And just starting with a little side bend, a little side bend. And I want you to notice what stretches and what pulls, what gives, and also what's resisting, what's centering, what's providing the core stability and your center of gravity. Because it's the contrast between all of these points that actually allows our body to warm up. And at any point, I encourage you to change a little bit your resistance because our bodies are constantly changing as well. So what was giving us one thing will soften as we get warmer. And maybe we need to add more challenge, or maybe we want to ease up to access something that's resistant if we go too hard. Start playing with your diagonal line, letting one shoulder go down, the other one go up, and see where your hips and your neck go in between. This is a movement that you're welcome to slow down and to find the pathway in between the extremes. There's a lot there for you. We're going to come back up to center. Take a breath in center. Watch the inside container change in relation to the volume of air you're taking in. And as you exhale, look for the moment where the shoulders roll a little forward and the sternum softens. Let that pull your chin into your chest. And then take a semicircle with the head. See if you can initiate from the top of the head and keep your focus initially on the movement of your cervical spine. So, not on the shoulders, not on the neck, just on the bony support for our bony skull. And then you can add the layers of muscles that support those vertebrae and their articulation. And the sense of the muscles around your face and the head also stretching in concert. So maybe you feel a little pull around the cheekbones, the jaw, and the eye as you let your head move from one side to the other. Lift your chest up, let your heart go behind yourself, squeeze your glute, inhale, and then open your mouth big and wide and do a lion breath. Inhale, lift your nose up. And exhale, release the down. And actually just have a seat on the floor for a second. Take your weight onto your hands and shake one foot out and the other foot out. It's a lot of pressure coming up the TheraBand, the arches, but it's not like we don't have a lot of impact on our foot anyhow every day. And stand back up. We're going to move into the asymmetry of it all now. So I personally like to use a loop band. That distance works for me and it feels a little more convenient for me than grabbing a TheraBand. Either way, I'll show you both options. I put my foot to the loop, I'll put my hand to the loop, and then I'll wrap it around, even maybe like a dog leash. So I bring the back of my hand in, like I showed you, and then wrap the palm around, which gives my wrist a little bit of traction. My body likes this. The distance works for me. I have other friends, clients who don't, in which case you can absolutely double up on your TheraBand. And that gives you a lot more length to play with. To avoid overworking your hand, what you would do is instead of just holding it, you'll um you'll grab it and then wrap one time around the wrist and then hold. So I wind up with a hold like this. I grab, this is my foot, this is my hand. I wrap and then I can connect. So if you choose to do that, give yourself a lot more slack to play with. And as we go through this little routine, you're always welcome to reload. So do you, and let's get started. We're going to start with standing on the bound with the right foot and taking the right hand around. Take your feet a little wider than hip distance. Glide your tailbone in between your heels. So it's aiming straight down to the back of your leg. And then I just want you to start taking your head to one side and then bringing your head back up. And see if you can just find center. Center usually involves your pelvis lifting up in towards your throat. We're not overshooting at this point. So we're just leaning away, finding the neck opening, and then returning to center. And if one piece of your foot gets tired of the pressure, shift the band to the arch more, the heel. Your foot has a lot more real estate than we think. Start to let your shoulder come up as you lean and let the shoulder go down as you come back. So now we're going to get a little asymmetry. Shoulder, head, a little lean, the ribs are going to shift. Four more. And experiment with turning the body up as you lean away from the band or down. Stay in the lean now. Shrug just your shoulder up and down. And let that movement begin to sync up with your breath. So the shoulder drop down, let the head stay down. And now very slowly, just take yourself into a rotation as far as you can go down towards the left. So the ribs are turning. The throat is aiming over the outside of the right ankle. And in reverse, your left hip can move forward to rotate the pelvis in the opposition. Let the arm drop behind yourself. Find the spine. If that feels tenuous for your head, take your left hand and actually support your left head as you go around. 4 times, just explore these extremes. Taking your torso to look down over the left leg or up around it. Take everything into center. Pull your abs into your spine. Push your head into your hand. And slowly press the head of the hand to come up. Give yourself one shoulder roll if you want. And then ease out of it. Shake your hand out, shake your foot out. and take a breath, noting that bridegroom feeling in your body. But see if you can also tap into the emotional quality of difference between your right and your left. What'd you do that made you feel the way that side is feeling right now? And taking a long breath in and out always helps us map our access to the interior of ourselves to do that. And then we'll do the whole thing on the other side. Your other side may not want the same feedback as the first one did. So give yourself permission to Goldilocks once again. And then once we're all ready, just start with that little bit of a head lean and come back to center. Your pacing is up to you. And remember, it's in relation to the environment you created for your body for movement right now. Going to the end point where your body's like, maybe I'm resisting a little bit. I suggest going a hair before that edge and then returning, especially when you're working with resistance. The proprioceptive feedback happens a little quicker. So by not going over the edge, but instead mapping your way back home, every time you repeat the initial movement, your body will get a little more confident and the range will tend to increase. Or again. They'll just to center for two more. And now let's start to let the wave happen and also the ripple. So we're going to lean and then we let the shoulder come back and it takes us over to the side, right? And I'm going to choose to keep my head favoring my right side as opposed to letting the wave complete up through the spine. You may choose differently depending on your resistance, but for me, this feels better than taking my head in the full undulation. And all I'm encouraging you to do is go with what's feeling right for right now and expand that range of movement and consciousness. We're going to start to experiment with leaning up or looking up and then looking down as I go over. We're going to experiment with looking up or looking down as I lean over that leg. And we'll stay leaning away. We're just going to turn the body down and up. Notice when the hip follows. Make sure you're pushing the ground away so your glutes are active. The posterior chain is helping you. You're not relying just on stacking your bones. You're activating all your muscles around your bones to move them in space. And then straight outside, just shrug the shoulder up and down. Come back to center. Let's take our head all the way around. and down to center. And then bring your other hand behind your head, push your head into your hair, and use that pressure and the resistance also. You're pulling your elbow forward to stand all the way back up. Wow. I'm going to slip out of that. I'd like you to create a scenario where you've made a double band around your legs and you have one loop around your arms, somewhere between the forearms and the wrists. Not that your upper arms are off limits, but we're trying to connect our extremities in such a way that they have a more direct access to center as well as to gravity. So I'm going to double loop my legs with my long TheraBand by wrapping it one time right above the knees and then one time below the knees. And then I'm just going to tie it. And then later I'll play a nice game of cat's cradle. That was a joke. And then from there, I'm going to pick band and I'm just going to wrap it around my forearm. And I'm going for my red one just because it's a little smaller. So once you have this scenario, and I want a little more resistance, so I'm going to actually double band my forearms. You do you. But just so I have something to press against. And you're going to take your hands forward and then press your knees out and your arms out. So it almost feels like you're standing on all four without standing on all four. If it feels like that's a lot of work for your upper back already, you can let your hands rest on your knees here. We're basically just going to start with activating all four of them, stretch the hands, and then move your spine back and forth in your own version of cat cow. And I want you to notice the freedom your rib cage has to roll around the band of healthy tension that exists between your scapula and the back body. And where do you find these delicious stretches inside of you that are coming from that additional resistance? Four more. And then we're going to take our hand band and we're going to go ahead and do that wrap I showed you. So it's around the wrist and then holding with the hand. We're going to make some circles. We'll reach our arms out and up, and there's going to be a moment as our arms go up that we actually squat down a little bit to lengthen our spine away. And then we'll stand up and complete the circle. So it's just like a really big, fancy stretch up and back. Oh. One more. And then come up to standing. Keep the pressure with your legs. I'm going to remove one band because I want a little more length now. I'm going to do some rotation. So it's a bow and arrow movement. I'm still holding around the bands. I'm just going to, actually, I'm not. I want more distance. So I'm going to take the band just around my head. I'm going to push one forward. And four times, I'm just going to inhale and take my right side around and then come back to center. I'm continuing to push my knees out. Other side. Again, cultivating the quality you want to feel. But to lean slightly over and go diagonally back. Keep pressing the opposite leg from the elbow out into the back. Change. And come up. Now, halos. Now I'm going to grip here. I want to be a little closer. We'll pull one arm behind myself The other arm and around and down. Eight each direction. Find the resistance that allows the stretch to meet on either sides of your thoracic spine. So right in that area where usually we're always trying to crack, see if you can get a little more sunlight on one side than the other. We'll actually do 4 and 4 twice. So changing sides after 4. I'm going to give you a side view. So I'm really focusing on how my scapula are gliding around the sphere of my rib cage. Side up and over, around the bottom. Second time a little faster. A little brighter. Change. Now take the band off. Squeeze it in between your fingertips. We'll do 2 good mornings. So I want you to turn your legs in a little bit and then bend over so you feel the length in your glutes and your lower spine. Squeeze the band together with your fingers until you find that connection in the back. And then we'll take the arms up to lengthen the back. Keep the arms up, bending into the hips. Keeping your arms up, come back up. Feel your butt picking yourself up. And then take the arms down. Again. Keep pushing your fingers together to find that circle of strength. And down. Keep squeezing the band, press these open. More. More. And then making your way down to the floor. Okay. So now that we're on the ground, I'd like you to come out of your double band scenario and just take an easier loop. I'm just asking my body what it wants. I'm going to try my big, long, big, wide pink loop, giving myself the permission to change my mind. And stretch your legs out. Bring your hands behind yourself. A few times. Find the work of separating your legs and see if you like that distance. And then take one knee in and back. Now you'll probably have your legs wider than hip distance if the band has that flexibility, because we're trying to work at the edges here. And then sit up. Grab the eddy band. Pull your arms apart. Push your legs apart. And let's just rotate and bend forward a few times. Then twisting as I bend forward. And what I'm looking for is finding that stretch all the way down into my lower back and the base of my pelvis as I go out. And that I'm not pulling my shoulders into my ears as I do this, but I'm activating breath through my shoulder blades, or through my shoulder girdle. And then lie down. Like that. So let's just take the right leg out and up 8 times. Stabilizing off that left side. You can use your hands to help you. I'm pushing them against the carpet. Change. Get real friendly with your glutes. And now let's just make circles with the leg. And notice they can start to pull our pelvis back and forth. And in fact, that feels really good. So allow your body to move with that. Maybe you go over in a bit of a plow. You play with your legs there. And you come up. Maybe you play with your legs there. And another fun thing to do here is connect your hands with the legs, either with the thighs or even holding the band, and just work on your roll. So let's have like 2 sets of 8 of these, finding something you want to explore and getting into it. You are always welcome to change your mind. In fact, it should be changing all the time. That's what plasticity is, right? Feeling for the next 8. And what's that? Let's take the band around the knees. And actually, let's just see what happens if we take it behind our backs as well. So we've kind of attached our shoulders to our knees. Um, I think we'll actually need to bring the band around the front of the knees. So not underneath the knees, but in front of the knees. Let's try that again. So just so we have an easier access point, come out of the band entirely and then take it over yourself like you would put on a tube top and then wrap it around your knees. I want you to keep the band anchored with your hands and drop your back into it and take a big breath right into that pressure. Exhale, sink into it. And the next breath, I want you to balloon your breath up into the sternum to lift yourself forward. Try to keep the band where it is. You're going to wind up through your knee and then exhale back. Take one breath into your back. Exhale. One breath of the sternum. Exhale back. Twice more, slow it down. Try a few circles. Just playing with that. Change. Oops. Let's take the band around the feet. I'm going to double up here. And I'm just going to push one foot out and pull the other one in, kneading, pulling the feet back. Pressing the hamstring down on the floor and pulling the body up and over that. Now I'm going to take both bands up. So I have one around my knees and one around my thighs. I'm going to push my knees a little wide. I'm going to do the same thing here with more access in the pelvis. The bands will migrate. It's okay. You survive. Move them back around the feet. Go ahead and lie back. Find a little happy baby. I'm going to just do one band for this. I want a little more width and take my hands into my legs. And just enjoy that extra rocking. Your elbows can support your calves if that's a comfortable position for you. And keep a little activity in the feet as you got like a figure eight action going with your leg. But the legs come up. You can hold on to them with your hands if you want. Just find a version of legs up the wall. Take a few breaths along your spine to conclude. Just noticing where breath goes down. Some people also really like to take a piece of that band around the back of their skull. You play with that. If that doesn't feel great on your nuts, recommend that you don't do that. That's one thing we learned from our Facebook newsfeed is it takes all kinds to make the world go round. So using the traction of your hands with pressure on the feet to give some comfort to your sacrum. And notice the quality of your breath now.